Hi, good morning or good afternoon, depending on the time that you're watching this video. This video is not live for once, it's actually just a recorded one. But to start the year, I really wanted to talk about setting some SMART goals. So that will be the topic of our conference today. And I hope that you downloaded, oh, it's invisible on the screen, your little booklet, Bilingual Strategy Plan 2023, because we're going to talk about setting SMART goals today, and you might want to complete your booklet as we're going, or your workbook. So I hope that it can be helpful to you. So what we're going to do today is actually talking about setting SMART goals as a multilingual, and in particular as a multilingual family. What does that look like? It is not a New Year resolution. No, it's not. But it is definitely, hopefully, going to help you with your family and your goals for this year. So I hope it will help. All right, so let's keep moving. Very good. So we're talking about a strategy for 2023. Obviously, this strategy is possible on every single year, but you want to have some sort of a yearly plan. So this is why I put a date on this strategy. All right, so if we open the booklets, the first thing that you need to assess is what are the languages that you speak as a family. And that can be the language that you speak, the language that your partner speak, and the languages that your children speak all together. And it can be the languages around you as well. Okay, so you can just put a language in each of this bubble, and you can put the level of ease that you have in each language. So remember, being bilingual or multilingual does not mean that you speak all your languages at the same level of proficiency. It just means that you use on a regular fashion more than one language. Okay, so maybe all week at work you are speaking one language, but on Saturdays with your family you're speaking another language. You are bilingual. And if you're not very at ease in one of these languages, you're just kind of willing to improve, that is possible to be bilingual in that fashion. Okay, so you're using more than one language on a regular basis, you are bilingual. Very good. So put the languages here in the little speech bubble that you are speaking, or that your partner is speaking, and that your children are speaking, and put in the little arrow next to them the level of ease in each of these languages. So you have already an assessment of the languages that are spoken in your family. And maybe you're going to write here the language that your partner speaks that you do not speak yourself, but it is a family language. Your children are exposed to that language, and hopefully they are actually learning this language with your partner if they're not learning with you. Very good. So this is very important. This is very easy to do, but that may already stir some question in you, like, well, I actually speak like 3 words of Spanish with my mother-in-law on Sunday after church. Yeah, okay, you're willing to improve, but you do speak a little bit of Spanish, and your child certainly is exposed to that language. So it is important to put it here as a family language. Now, when you speak different languages, it is very important as a strategy to have a support network. So the next step that I'm going to encourage you to do today is to actually assess who is your support network in all the different languages. And you will see in your booklet that I chose the same colors, pages after pages, to reflect one language. So if you use the color blue for one language, continue along your booklets to use the blue bubbles to talk about that language. Okay, so ideally in each of your language you have at least 2 people or 2 groups that can be your support network. It is difficult that you do not stay by yourself with the language, because you will usually feel overwhelmed. I have parents sometimes who tell me that they feel they can't really share a language with their children because they themselves have no one to share it with, and they feel that maybe they're losing the grammar, or their vocabulary is not accurate, or maybe they lost the cultural side of things. I get it. I get it, absolutely, because the language is anchored in a culture, and if you're far away, it can be difficult. Okay, so maybe in your case that is not a person, maybe in your case that is the radio or movies or books or music, any other extra support that you can think of that will actually help you still work in that language, even though you don't have these people around you. But if you can, and you have people around you that can be a support network, this is always more constructive, and it is an encouragement for you in moments of doubt to have other people that can speak the language. Of course, the first people you're going to think of are your family members, because usually you are choosing languages that are spoken across the family, the extended family, and maybe you can stand on your grandmother's help, or an auntie, or a cousin, someone in the family or in your partner's family that can keep the language alive, and that is someone that you want to put here in your support network. Think of your friends as well. Maybe in the place where you are living, you know of people who also are speakers of that particular language, and they can be a support, of course, in that language. So put their name in there, okay? Now, maybe you are in a family strategy where you have enrolled your children in a childcare or a school or a play group or a community center that speak this particular language. This is a very good support network as well. So they are part of your support network. You can put that here for that language. Maybe you have hired a babysitter or an au pair or someone to come and look after your children in some manner and speak their language or that particular language with your children. She is part of your support network, or he is part of your support network. I shouldn't say she for babysitter. My very first babysitter for my first child was actually my neighbor next door, and it was a 17-year-old boy. It was actually the most beautiful babysitter. So babysitter boys can be also very good. And then you can think of your professional network as well. Maybe at work, there are other people that speak your language, and I can support you in that speaking a language. Or maybe you're going to take professional advice as well and get the help of someone just to help you cultivate and grow and develop this multilingualism in the home. You can think of a consultant or a mentor or a coach in multilingualism that can be part of your support to maintain all the languages in the home. They might not speak this particular language, but they know they have a linguistic knowledge of multilingualism or bilingualism, and will give you some good strategies and encouragement, and will keep you accountable as well in your journey with your children. Remember, something I often say is that multilingualism is not achieved until your child is turning 18 years of age. Why? Because the brain keeps developing all this time and keeps building up, and you cannot say that a language is going to be maintained later on in adulthood if you didn't maintain it up to 18 years of age or around that time. So we all know of children who lose their language. Unfortunately, they speak a language in a young infancy, and as they grow up and they go to primary school and secondary school, they forget this language, and once adults, they actually retain nothing from their childhood language. So it's quite important to remember that specificity. So something that I want to assess now with you in your family language strategy is when and how do you speak these languages? And I have many parents that come to me and ask, I've heard about the one person, one language, or OPAL method, but it's a bit awkward to put in place in my family. It's not really working. What do you think? And I really want to make it clear that the OPAL method is not the only method. It doesn't work for everybody. It works well in some cases, in some circumstances, but it's not applicable to absolutely every situation. And I can talk about my own situation. I have been a single mom for 15 years before I remarried. And for 15 years, I was the only parent in the house. And I still raise my children in many languages. My children, when they were little, would speak 6 languages. And I was the only parent they had in the house. So the OPPO method is not the only one. How can you do that? Well, look at this page on your workbook. It is to have one moment, one language, and have actually activities that are dedicated to one language. Think about cultural things, something like cooking, for example. If you're cooking recipes from your country, from your culture, from your childhood, probably it is more relevant and more meaningful to actually do that recipe in that language. It's just more cultural, and maybe you will actually not find the words in other languages as well. It is the case as well for some stories or songs that will contain some words that are not easily translatable in other languages. If I speak about my own language, there is a few words that are very important in terms of values in my language that I cannot translate in French, I cannot translate in English, I cannot translate in Spanish. I don't know how to express this value in any other language than my native language. And for me, these words are contained in songs, and this is how I will transmit that to my children through these songs, because I don't know how to use them otherwise as well. So contextualizing your language is important. Keeping it in a meaningful context is important. And this is why doing some activities with a specific language is actually quite important and meaningful for your child. There will be songs that you'd like to share with your child. And if you're a non-native speaker of a language that you want to share with your child, it is possible. And usually one of the questions you have is like, well, I don't really know like the childhood nursery rhymes or what is relevant for that word or this word. I say, well, what is it that you know, and what is an activity that you know in that language that you're non-native of that you want to share with your child? This is what you're going to share, okay? It's no point of, for example, trying to teach your child to say, you know, carry me in Spanish if this is not something that you're familiar with. But in Spanish, if you're very familiar with the cooking and this is something that you really like and passionate about, well, that's the moment to share that with your child. So this is just an example, obviously. So activities that you can match with the language can be reading different books, and this is something that you can do across different languages. Obviously, you can listening to radio or podcast, or you know, some radio show later when they're a little bit older. You can watch some movie, age appropriate, obviously. Something that is fantastic for multilingual children is that some great movies are actually available in different languages. So it is very good. You can do some cultural activities. If there's some festivals that exist in your culture, obviously they are related in your language as well. So this is a great opportunity. You can think of sport, you can think of arts, crafts, cooking. You can think of relationship as well. Let's write postcard. Sorry to Auntie, you know, that is back in this country. So we're going to write to her in her language. And you can think of preparing travel as well, and obviously preparing the travel in that language. I've traveled extensively with my children. At the time that I was by myself with them, we did complete tour of the earth like 8 times, I think. And every time we were going to different country, we were learning different things to be able to navigate that country. So just some basics. And because of that, because the children are exposed to so many languages, they're learning different strategies to learn these languages. It is very beneficial for their brain once again. So think of all these activities that you're doing that are really meaningful to you, and you can place them in these different bubbles. Same, I use the same colors as previously. So what you have in the blue color, keep it in the blue color, and you can complete your book like this. Another way to think of using different languages as a multilingual family is to find also meaningful time during the day related to each of the languages. Okay, so you can see that on this page. I also use the same colors to make it easy for you. And you can think of moments in the day when it's meaningful for you and your family. to speak a language versus another. Okay, when I remarried, I brought different languages in the new blended family, and we really had to find a way to make languages work for us as a blended family. So we had to choose moments where we're going to speak a language and other moments when we're speaking another language, just because not everybody in the family speaks every language. So we can't just swap from one to another anymore. But this is also some time ritual during the day that the other members of the family have learned. And for example, the morning greetings for us has always been in French, and we have a little sentence in French that is bonjour, je t'aime, which translated in English will be good morning, I love you. And we always say it like this, and we also always say in French. We never translated it in any other of our languages. And now the new member of the family who can't speak French or can't speak French very well, they know this ritual in the morning, and they actually participate, and they use this specific phrase just because that kind of become the morning ritual. So this is extremely powerful, actually, to have some key phrases or key moments that you're going to dedicate to a language. Some key moments are obviously the morning, first thing that you say when you see someone as a morning greeting. That's something that obviously you probably in your family already have something to say at that time. That can be around the meals. If you are taking your meals together around the table, there's probably some little phrases that you share around the meal that will be typical to a language. Once again, as an example, in French, we say bon appétit at the beginning of a sentence, of a meal. And this is something that we kept in our blended family as well. So this is some phrase that we always say when we start the meal. Other meaningful moment will be bedtime. For example, you're reading a story, you're giving a glass of water, brushing your teeth, all these sort of things can be in meaningful languages around this different moment of the day. And then with all these languages, as a multilingual family, you may have some rituals around when you are outside the house, in public, and when you are inside the house with just your family. And for example, in some cultures, it can feel rude to speak a language that other people can't speak around you. So maybe in this case, you will choose to speak the local language so you don't feel you are not perceived as rude by using your language. Or sometimes at the opposite, you want to say something discreetly to your children, or you want to make them feel that you're crossing the boundary here, young person, and you're going to be in trouble if you continue. And maybe you want to keep that under the radar and use your language so no one else knows what's going on. Or maybe your teenage girl is going to approach you and she is embarrassed because she needs some girl stuff and she doesn't want to say it in a language that everybody understands around you. So she's going to choose another language that nobody else can understand to strategically prompt her mom to help her with this type of problem. So there can be a lot of different strategies, as you can see, where times and places can be strong, meaningful strategies to speak the different languages around the family. So you can complete this page there. Now, once we have made this assessment, and you can do it by yourself and you can share with your family later, or you can actually include your family and do it together as a family assessment. But it is important, and I think before going any further, to really have this time when you're going to know your why. Why is it that you're doing all of this? Because this is not an easy task. And I've had sometimes people who say, oh, really? You're helping people with the multilingualism? I don't understand that. Everything's fine for me. Okay, how old is your child? 2 years old. Yes, of course, this is why. Wait until the child actually speaks, and then you will see that it is not that easy to maintain your multilingualism. I've been surprised actually to meet multilinguals in the workplace and to say, oh, okay, so are your children multilingual as well? Oh, no, it's too difficult, it's too complicated. So we made the choice to only speak one language, so it's much easier. Okay, well, that's your choice, but that's a shame probably for your children. And, you know, like these people didn't have their why, I guess, in multilingualism. But if this is your case, if you feel that for you it is something important, you really need to understand why it is important, because it will help you in moments that are difficult. It is not that easy to maintain multilingualism in the home, especially if, like me, you live in a country that is extremely monolingual. So why are you multilingual? Think about your own history first. What made you a multilingual? How come you are multilingual? Maybe you learn later. Maybe you were multilingual as a child and you just continue. Maybe you went on an expatriation. Maybe you immigrated somewhere. So there's multiple reasons why you are a multilingual. And maybe you are multilingual at different level. Once again, maybe you're completely fluent in all your languages, or maybe you are fluent in one or maybe two languages, but you're not as comfortable in other languages. Still, you have to use them. So this first box, why am I multilingual, is very important, because I will probably prompt you to respond to all the other why as well. Okay, so why are you multilingual like today as a parent, as an adult? What is it that made you? And then what does it matter to you? Okay, what does it matter to me? So you are multilingual, this is a fact. Maybe you speak two languages, maybe you speak more than two languages, but what does it matter? What is it important to you? Is it because of your culture? Is it because of your identity? Is it because it reminds you of something? Is it because of the mindset you like thinking in that language? There's all sort of things. I studied philosophy when I was a student, and I actually taught philosophy for a couple of years. And I thought that teaching Greek philosophy was much easier when you actually understood the classical Greek language. And similarly, if I wanted to teach a German philosopher, well, understanding a little bit of German was certainly a great help in understanding the mindset and the way of thinking of the philosopher. So there's all sort of reason why it is important for you to maintain, to keep this bilingualism or this multilingualism that is your situation now, okay? So all these questions are about you for the moment as a parent. What is it that you represent? And this is very important, because this is the foundation then to share with your children, okay? So once you have a strong response for these two questions, then you can start asking yourself, why do you want to share these languages with your children? Why do you want to share multilingualism with your children? And that would be probably a little bit different. Maybe your reason will be, well, actually, I learned later in life and it revealed quite difficult. And I realized it is much easier for my children to learn languages when they're young. So this is what I want to do it when they're young. Could be a reason. This is very different reason to why you are multilingual. Or maybe you actually yourself don't speak more than one language, but your partner speak a different language. And you're thinking, well, that's a great chance for my child to know my partner's language and my partner's culture, and to know mine as well. So this is why it is important for me, or for us as a family, that our children can have both their parents' language. So that could be a reason like this as well. For me, I traveled a lot, and obviously just being exposed to different languages and different cultures, my children also were immersed, and I felt that it was very beneficial, because I was myself multilingual as well, and I wanted them to have the benefits as well. So this is all very different reasons. It belongs to you. Maybe you can ask your children, what do you think? What do you think it is important that you can speak more than one language? And your child might help you actually answer that question, okay? Now, once you have the response to these three questions, these three boxes, you can ask yourself as a family, what is it beneficial, not just for you, not just for your child, but for everybody in the family, and then beyond the family as well. Think a little bit, beyond that in the future. Think about your child that is growing, that is developing, that is building their own identity. Why is it beneficial for them? Maybe in their career progression, maybe in their career opportunities, maybe in their pay grades, all sort of things. And later on in life, knowing that their brain health will be, stronger than the health of a monolingual as well. So you can think, when your child is 80 years of age and, probably less likely to develop diseases like Alzheimer's or this type of things. So why is it beneficial? That is the last question. It's actually quite a deep question, because this is what gives you, the big picture and kind of the further goal, and help you go on when things are a little bit more difficult. So this page here in your booklet, Know Your Why and Why Does It Matter, is quite an important one. I really encourage you to spend some time really investigating that aspect and to share with your partner and with your children around these questions. Very important. So to help you maybe as well, still in that question, I just invite you as well to think, what are the multilingual superpowers or benefits that are the more meaningful to you? There's a multiplicity of benefits of being multilingual, and it is important to know what is the most important to you, because it will help you in times where things get a little bit more difficult. It will help you in the time that you are facing biases or prejudice or false beliefs from monolingual, and in particular when your child goes to school or maybe at work, you may have some comments from people who don't really understand. So knowing these benefits is very important. So I put some here on the page or on the screen, and you can think of which one actually is very meaningful to you. And you can see there's a little bit of room as well. There's a little box next to them, so you can write some notes, so to really make it personal to you, to your situation, to your children. And maybe that is a good support for you to talk to your children about what you feel is beneficial for them in being multilingual. So this is this little page for you to do with your children as well, and with your partner. Now, once you have all these different elements, you can start setting some SMART goals. Okay, so what does that mean to set SMART goals? Well, first of all, the goals need to be specific. Okay, there's some questions here to help you set goals that are specific. They need to be measurable. It's very important as well. Some questions as well to help you. These goals have to be achievable. The point of setting a goal that you can't achieve is just going to be discouraging. So make sure it is achievable. And then it needs to be realistic, especially if you're sharing these goals with children. It has to be realistic, and it needs to be helpful to go forward for the children. And something really important, it needs to be time bound. So you can't just set a goal that is in an indefinite time, because you will not get to it. So this is why having a yearly review is quite important. So try to set goals within this year ahead of you, but maybe you can set goals that are for the next month, and then maybe for the next 3 months, and maybe for the next 6 months, and then for the rest of the year, because you just can't build a habit just like this. Some experts say that you need to do something at least 20 times before it becomes a routine. And for me, sometimes when I see my teenagers and their routine, like brushing their teeth and everything, I feel it takes much more than 20 times to repeat over and over and over the same thing. And you are dealing with your children. Sometimes you have to repeat something more than 20 times to make sure that it is achieved. So you have here questions on one page, and in the page across in your workbook, you can see that you have this time the same SMART diagram, but with empty boxes this time. So you can write actually your goals in there that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So you can write here your goals, and you can review them, you can display them, you can talk about it with your children, you can review them easily, because it will be time bound, and you will be able to check that, yes, this is something that you are achieving. All of this should help you see the big picture. What is it, the big picture that you want to achieve as a family, as a multilingual family, for yourself, for your children, and maybe their children as well. I'm talking to some grandparents sometimes who come and tell me there's a grandfather that has really joined the movement, and he tells me, I regret so much that I didn't insist more for my children to speak my language, but now they have children themselves, and this time I just go for it and I speak only in my language in my grandchildren, and they respond, and he's very pleased, his grandfather, because, well, he failed the opportunity with his children for a reason or another, but now he's seizing the opportunity for his grandchildren, and it is creating a wonderful relationship between the grandfather and the grandchildren. So think big picture, even if you're grandparents or your parents, what is it that you want to achieve as a family through your languages? What is it in terms of identity, of cultures, of opportunities, of health, of relationships that you want to share with your children and give them as a legacy? It's quite an important page to complete as well. And because this is the last page of your booklet, it will be very easy to keep in mind as well, and to keep very visible. Very good. Well, I really hope that this little conference was helpful to you and that you were able to complete your booklet. You can continue to work on this booklet outside of the conference. If you have any questions, you can send me an email at info@glossophia.net, or you can reach to me on social media as well. Glossophia is available on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and this video is also available on YouTube. And if you're keen and you actually want to develop your own strategy as a family, I really invite you to book a free 30 minutes consultation. It's very easy. You can just tag the QR code that is in front of you on the screen. And if you are on your phone right now and you can't tag with your phone, you can just go on the website www.glossophia.net, and you go on the page that is book a consultation, or consultation, not sure the words exactly, but you can book there, and there is a consultation especially for families. So I really hope to see you there. I really hope that this conference helped you to set smart goals as a multilingual family for yourself and your children and your partner, and maybe your extended family as well. And I say thank you very much for attending today, and see you very soon. Bye-bye.